Hello and welcome to Orbit English Channel. I'm Alex, and today I'm going to share something that changed my life forever. 7 days. Just 7 days that transformed me from someone who could barely introduce myself in English to someone who could speak confidently, understand native speakers, and even think in English. You might be thinking, that's impossible. Nobody can learn a language in just 7 days. I thought the same thing. I had tried everything before: expensive courses, language apps, watching movies with subtitles, but nothing worked fast enough. I was still struggling, still feeling lost whenever someone spoke English to me. Then, by complete accident, I discovered what I now call the eyebrow technique. Why this name? You'll understand very soon, and I promise it will make perfect sense. This method is so powerful, so different from traditional approaches, that it feels almost like magic. But it's not magic. It's based on how our brains actually work and learn languages. Today, I'm going to share the complete method with you, step by step. I'll tell you exactly what I did each day for those 7 incredible days. By the end of this video, you'll have the same tool that transformed my English and my confidence. Before we begin, I need you to understand something important. This method requires commitment. You'll need to follow each step exactly as I explain. But if you do, the results will amaze you. Are you ready? Let's begin the journey. My story. Let me take you back to where it all started. I was living in my home country, dreaming of better opportunities abroad. I had a job interview with an international company in just 1 week. The problem? The interview would be in English, and my English was terrible. I could read a little and knew some basic grammar, but speaking? Understanding? I would freeze when someone asked me a question in English. I felt hopeless. How could I possibly learn enough English in 7 days to pass an interview? It seemed impossible. I couldn't afford to miss this opportunity, but I also couldn't see how I could prepare in time. That evening, feeling desperate, I went to a small cafe to clear my head. At the table next to me sat an older man reading a book. He had the most expressive eyebrows I had ever seen. They moved up and down as he read, almost like they were dancing. Sometimes his eyebrows would go up in surprise. Sometimes they would come together in concentration. It was fascinating to watch. When he noticed me looking, he smiled and asked if I was okay. I apologized for staring and explained my problem, the interview, my poor English, the impossible deadline. To my surprise, he told me he was a retired language professor who had taught English for over 40 years. 7 days is not much time, he said, but it might be enough if you use the right method. His eyebrows rose as he said this, and that's when he began to explain what I now call the eyebrow technique. Each letter in eyebrow stands for a different part of the method. E, engage all senses. Y, yield to immersion. E, emotional connection. B, body language. R, repeat with rhythm. O, one focus at a time. W, word families. The professor explained that most people fail at learning languages quickly because they approach it the wrong way. The problem, he said, is not that your brain can't learn fast. It's that traditional methods are not aligned with how your brain naturally learns. He wrote down the method for me on a napkin. I was skeptical but desperate enough to try anything. Little did I know that this chance meeting would change everything. Day 1. E. Engage all senses. The next morning, I woke up determined to give the eyebrow technique a real chance. The first letter, E, stands for engage all senses. The professor had explained that our brain learns much faster when multiple senses are involved. Most language learning only uses eyes, reading, and ears, listening. But what about touch, smell, and taste? What about movement? Here's what I did on day 1. First, I chose 50 important English words related to my job interview. For each word, I created a small card. But these weren't ordinary flashcards. On each card, I wrote the word and its meaning. Then I did something unusual. I found a way to connect each word to my senses. For example, for the word successful, I drew a small star on the card and put a drop of my favorite cologne on it. Every time I studied this word, I would see it, say it out loud, feel the star with my finger, and smell the cologne. For challenge, I put a small piece of bitter chocolate on the card the first time I studied it. The taste helped my brain create a stronger memory. I spent the entire day working with these 50 words, engaging as many senses as possible. I would touch the cards, smell them, look at the words, say them out loud, listen to my voice, and even associate some words with tastes. By evening, something amazing happened. I could remember all 50 words perfectly, not just their meanings, but also how to pronounce them correctly. On a normal day with traditional methods, I would have been happy to remember 10 to 15 new words. The professor had told me, "Your brain is designed to create strong memories when multiple senses are involved." This is how our ancestors learned which plants were safe to eat or which animals were dangerous. They didn't read it in books. They experienced it with all their senses. That night, I went to bed feeling excited. The first day had shown incredible results. But I knew I needed much more than 50 words to pass my interview. Would the rest of the technique work as well? Day 2, yield to immersion. On day 2, I moved to the second letter of the eyebrow. Technique, Y for yield to immersion. The professor had explained that most language learners make the mistake of studying English for just 30 minutes or an hour each day. Then they go back to thinking and speaking in their native language. This approach is too slow because the brain keeps switching back and forth between languages. You must yield completely to English, he had said. Surrender to it. Let it surround you completely. Here's what I did on day 2. I changed the language on my phone to English. I put sticky notes with English words on everything in my apartment: door, window, refrigerator, bed, everything. I found an English radio station and kept it playing all day, even when I wasn't actively listening. The most important part was that I made a strict rule for myself. For the entire day, I would not speak my native language at all, not even to myself in my thoughts. This was incredibly challenging. At first, my brain felt tired after just an hour. I wanted to give up. But I remembered the professor's advice. The moment you feel mental fatigue is actually the moment your brain is creating new connections. Push through that barrier. So I continued. When I didn't know how to say something in English, I would look it up or find a way to describe it with the words I knew. I talked to myself in simple English all day. I am walking to the kitchen. I am opening the refrigerator. I am hungry. By afternoon, something incredible happened. I stopped translating in my head. For short, simple thoughts, English words started coming directly. My brain was beginning to process English naturally. That evening, I recorded myself speaking about my day in English. When I played it back, I was shocked. Even though I made many grammar mistakes and had to pause often to find words, I was speaking English more fluently than ever before. Just one day of complete immersion had done more for my speaking skills than months of traditional study. The professor was right. Yielding completely to the language, even for just one day, had pushed my brain to adapt quickly. But I still had a long way to go before my interview. Day 3. E. Emotional connection. Day 3 focused on the second E in eyebrow, emotional connection. The professor had explained that our brains Remember things much better when strong emotions are involved. Think about your strongest memories, he had said. I bet they all have strong feelings attached to them. Happiness, sadness, excitement, fear. Use emotions to make English stick in your memory. Here's what I did on day 3. First, I made a list of my most important emotional memories. My first day of school. Winning a competition. My first heartbreak. The happiest day of my life. My biggest fear. Then, I practiced telling these stories in English. At first, it was very difficult. I didn't have all the words I needed. But there was something powerful about connecting my real emotions to English words. When I talked about happy memories, I actually felt happy. When I described something sad, I felt the sadness again. The professor had given me specific instructions for this day. Don't worry about perfect grammar. Focus on expressing your real feelings. Your brain will work extra hard to find the right words. Because the emotions matter to you. I recorded myself telling these emotional stories. Then I listened to the recordings and added more details, more feelings. I did this 3 times for each story. By the 3rd time, I was speaking more fluently, using better words and feeling the emotions even more strongly. In the afternoon, I tried something even more challenging. I watched short emotional videos in English, a funny comedy clip, a sad scene from a movie, an exciting sports moment. After each video, I described out loud how it made me feel and why. Something amazing happened during this exercise. When I felt a strong emotion while speaking English, those words and phrases stuck in my memory immediately. I didn't need to review them multiple times. The emotional connection made them stick. That evening, I practiced a mock job interview, imagining all the emotions I might feel: nervousness at the beginning, excitement when talking about my skills, pride when sharing my achievements. Connecting these emotions to English phrases made them come more naturally. The professor had been right again. By connecting English to my real emotions, I was building much stronger memories and making the language a part of me, not just words I had memorized. Day 4, B. Body language. On day 4, I moved to the B in the eyebrow technique, body language. Language is not just words, the professor had told me. It's also how you move your face, your hands, your whole body when you speak. Each language has its own body language. If you want to speak English naturally, you need to move like a native English speaker. This seemed strange to me at first. Could body movements really affect my language skills? But I trusted the process and followed his instructions. Here's what I did on day 4. I started by watching videos of native English speakers with the sound turned off. I paid close attention to how they moved their faces, especially their eyebrows. Yes, eyebrows again. How they used their hands, how they stood or sat. I noticed that English speakers tended to raise their eyebrows to show surprise or emphasis, used their hands differently than in my culture, and had different facial expressions for emotions. Then I turned the sound back on and practiced imitating not just their words, but their exact movements. I stood in front of a mirror and copied everything. The position of their lips for certain sounds, how they move their heads when asking questions, how they use their hands to emphasize important points. The professor had explained, when you move your body like a native speaker, your brain starts to form the same neural connections they have. Your mouth positions itself correctly for sounds, without you having to think about it. In the afternoon, I took this practice to another level. I found a short interview video with a person who looked confident and professional, exactly how I wanted to appear in my job interview. I watched one sentence at a time, then paused the video and copied exactly how they spoke and moved. I practiced each sentence at least 10 times until my body automatically made the right movements. The most surprising part came when I practiced common interview questions again that evening. When I intentionally used English body language, the words flowed more easily and my pronunciation improved automatically. My mouth was actually making the correct shapes for sounds. That had been difficult for me before. The professor had been right about this too. By adopting the physical movements of native English speakers, I was training my body to help my brain speak the language more naturally. It felt strange at first, but by the end of the day, some of these movements were becoming natural to me. Day 5. R. Repeat with rhythm. Day 5 was dedicated to the R in eyebrow. Repeat with rhythm. English has its own music, the professor had said. Each language has a unique rhythm, like a song. If you learn this rhythm, your English will immediately sound more natural, even if you make grammar mistakes. Here's what I did on day 5. I started by listening to short audio clips of native English speakers, but instead of focusing on the words, I paid attention to the rhythm and melody of the language. I noticed how English speakers stress certain syllables and not others, how their voice rises and falls in questions, how they connect words together in speech. Then I practiced repeating these audio clips, matching the exact rhythm even if I didn't understand all the words. I clapped my hands or tapped my foot to help feel the rhythm better. Sometimes I even hummed the melody of English. Sentences before saying the actual words. The professor had suggested a specific exercise. Find a song in English with clear lyrics. Learn to sing it perfectly, matching every beat and tone. This will train your mouth and brain to feel the natural rhythm of English. I chose a simple, slow song and practiced it for hours until I could sing it perfectly, matching the exact timing and stress of each syllable. Then I spoke the lyrics rather than singing them, keeping the same rhythm. It felt like my mouth was finally moving at the right speed for English. In the afternoon, I took basic sentences I would need for my interview and practiced, saying them with the correct rhythm and stress. I am excited about this opportunity. I have experience in customer service. I exaggerated the stressed syllables at first, then made it more natural. By evening, something clicked. I stopped sounding foreign when I spoke English. My sentences had the flow and music of natural English. I still made grammar mistakes, but somehow they seemed less important because the overall sound of my speech was more authentic. The professor had explained, rhythm is processed in a different part of the brain than vocabulary and grammar. By focusing on rhythm, you're activating a part of your language learning capacity that most methods ignore. This day's practice had transformed how I sounded in English. My confidence was growing because I knew that even with limited vocabulary, I could sound more natural by getting the rhythm right. Day 6. One focus at a time. On day 6, I moved to the AO in the eyebrow technique, one focus at a time. The biggest mistake language learners make, the professor had told me, is trying to improve everything at once: pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, listening, speaking. This overwhelms the brain. Instead, divide your day into blocks and focus intensely on just one aspect at a time. Here's what I did on day 6. I divided my day into 5 2-hour blocks, each with one specific focus. 1. First block 7-9 a.m. Pronunciation only. I chose 20 difficult English sounds and practiced only those sounds, not worrying about meaning or grammar. I watched videos showing mouth positions for these sounds. I recorded myself and compared it to native speakers. For 2 hours, nothing else mattered but making these sounds perfectly. Second block, 9:30 to 11:30 m. Listening only. I listened to interviews similar to what I expected for my job interview. During this time, I didn't speak at all. I just listened intensely, training my ears to catch words and phrases. I didn't worry if I couldn't understand everything. The goal was just to train my listening. 3. Third block 1 to 2 p.m. Vocabulary only. I focused on 30 specific professional words and phrases that would impress interviewers. For each word, I created examples, synonyms, and practiced using it in different sentences. Nothing but vocabulary mattered during this block. 4. Fourth block, 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Grammar only. I chose 3 grammar patterns essential for interviews. Present perfect for experience. I have worked on many projects. Conditionals for possibilities. If you hire me, I would. And comparatives. This position is more suitable for me because I practiced only these patterns, creating many examples. 5. Fifth block 5-7 p.m. Speaking only. In this final block, I practiced speaking without stopping for 2 hours straight. I talked about anything and everything in English. The rule was no pauses longer than 3 seconds. Even if I made mistakes, I had to keep talking. This trained my brain to access English words quickly. The professor had explained, by focusing intensely on one skill at a time, you reach a state of deep practice that creates rapid improvement. It's like sharpening one edge of a knife until it's perfect before moving to the next section. By the end of this day, I was exhausted but amazed at the progress. Each skill had improved, more in its dedicated 2 hours than it would have in days of mixed practice. My pronunciation was clearer, my listening sharper, my vocabulary more professional, my grammar more accurate, and my speaking more fluid. Day 7. Word families. The final day focused on the last letter of the eyebrow technique, W for word families. Individual words are hard to remember, the professor had said. Word families stick together in your memory. If you learn words in related groups, you multiply your vocabulary without multiplying your study time. Here's what I did on day 7. Instead of learning random new words, I took words I already knew and expanded them into families. For example, from the word create, I built a family. Create, creative, creativity. Creatively, creator, creation. I made word family trees on large sheets of paper. At the center was a basic word I knew well. Around it, I added all related words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs from the same root. I used different colors for different parts of speech. For each family, I created example sentences showing how each related word is used. This was powerful because once I understood how one word worked, the related words became easy to use correctly. The professor had advised, focus especially on word families that will be useful in your job interview. This will give you flexibility during the conversation. So I built families around key words like experience, experience, experienced, experiencing, experiential, qualify, qualify, qualified qualification, qualifying, success, success, successful, successfully, succeed, and about 15 other important core words. In the afternoon, I practiced using these word families in mock interview answers. I found that knowing the word families gave me options when speaking. If I couldn't remember how to use qualification correctly in a sentence, I could switch to qualified and still express my idea clearly. By evening, I did a final complete mock interview. The difference from 7 days earlier was unbelievable. I was speaking confidently, using professional vocabulary, understanding questions easily, and responding with good grammar and natural rhythm. The professor had been right. Learning word families had multiplied my usable vocabulary in a short time, giving me more options when speaking and making me sound more sophisticated. The interview and results. The next day was my interview. I was nervous but also confident in a way. I had never felt before about speaking English. When the interviewers greeted me, I responded with the natural rhythm I had practiced. I used appropriate body language, making eye contact and smiling confidently. As they asked questions, I engaged all my senses in the room to stay focused and present. When they asked about my experience, I drew on the word families I had mastered, smoothly using different forms. I have extensive experience in this field. I experienced similar challenges in my previous role, where I experimented with innovative solutions. I connected emotionally to my answers, showing genuine enthusiasm for the position. This made my English flow more naturally. When I didn't know a specific word, I adapted quickly using other words I knew well. To my amazement, the interviewers seemed impressed, not just with my qualifications but with my communication skills. At one point, one of them even commented, "Your English is excellent. Have you lived abroad?" I got the job. But more importantly, I had transformed my relationship with English in just 7 days. The eyebrow technique had worked beyond my expectations. How you can use the eyebrow technique: 33 minutes and 30 seconds to 36 minutes and 0 seconds. Now, I want to help you achieve similar results. Here's how you can use the eyebrow technique in your own life. 1. Engage all senses. Whatever you're learning, involve multiple senses. Touch, smell, taste, see, hear, and move. Create sensory connections to the language. 2. Why yield to immersion? Choose at least 1 day per week for complete English immersion. No other language allowed, not even in your thoughts. 3. Emotional connection. Practice expressing real emotions in English. Tell stories that matter to you. Connect English words to your true feelings. 4. Body language. Watch and imitate how native English speakers move. Match their facial expressions, hand gestures, and body positions when speaking. 5. Repeat with rhythm. Learn the music of English. Clap the rhythm of sentences. Exaggerate stress patterns, then make them natural. Sing English songs focusing on perfect rhythm. 6. One focus at a time. Divide your practice into clear blocks. Focus intensely on one skill during each block: pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, listening, or speaking. 7. Word families. Instead of isolated words, learn word families. From one word you know, build branches of related words. This multiplies your vocabulary quickly. You don't need special tools or expensive courses to use this technique. Just your commitment and dedication for 7 days. If you can't do 7 consecutive days, spread it over 2 weeks. But try to keep the days of practice close together. Remember, the eyebrow technique worked for me because I followed it exactly. I didn't skip steps or take shortcuts. I committed fully to each day's focus. Now it's your turn. I promise that if you follow this method with full commitment, you'll see improvements you never thought possible in such a short time. Conclusion: 36 minutes and 0 seconds to 37 minutes and 30 seconds. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I know it was long, but I wanted to share every detail of the method that changed my life. The eyebrow technique isn't magic. It's based on how our brains naturally learn languages. When we remove the artificial barriers of traditional teaching. If this video helped you, please like it and subscribe to the Orbit English channel for more effective learning methods. Share it with friends who are struggling with English. You might change someone's life, just like the professor changed mine. In the comments below, let me know which part of the eyebrow technique you're most excited to try. Is it engaging all your senses? Using emotional connections? Learning word families? I'll be reading your comments and responding. And remember, what seems impossible is often just untried. 7 days can change everything. If you have the right method and the courage to fully commit to it. This is Alex from Orbit English Channel, wishing you amazing success on your English learning journey. Until next time, keep raising those eyebrows and expanding your English horizons.